Welcome to the Becoming Your Best Version podcast. I am your host, Maria Leonard Olson. I'm a civil litigation attorney in Washington, D.C. I'm a journalist, author, podcaster, TEDx speaker, and mentor to women in recovery. I'd very much appreciate it if you would hit the like button on my TEDx talks and maybe review my book. Um, you can find all the information at marialeonardolson.com. I started this podcast 6 years ago because my work in the realm of women in midlife brought me into contact with amazing women who have inspired me and I think will inspire you. Today, we have Ali Shaw. She's a fierce survivor who has reinvented herself multiple times after devastating loss. Ali is a proud cancer survivor who became an opera singer. She's also an award-winning entrepreneur who became an author. Ali and her husband recently retired as business owners of a multi-state Domino's franchise after achieving 8 Gold Franny Awards, which go to the top 2% of franchisees worldwide. Ali launched a new career as a speaker in 2016, presenting to audiences of 100 people to 10,000 people. Her passion for writing had always played understudy, but the quietness of the pandemic provided time for inspiration to grow. She became a first-time author of the narrative nonfiction book called Chasing Tigers in the Dark: Life Lessons of a Fierce Survivor. She won an International Impact Book Award for her memoir in 2026. She recently signed a two-book contract for a new fiction project with Wicked Inc. Publishing in Canada. The novels, called Tiger Eye and Daisy Chain, will shine a spotlight on the global human trafficking crisis and are slated to be launched this year and next. The title of her book and accompanying book tour speech is I Caught the Tiger, Now What? They're both metaphors for facing the fears that attempt to stunt our productivity and prevent us from achieving our ultimate success. This topic feeds her evolving purpose of building awareness around mental health struggles, which affect more than 50% of the population, and providing resources for healing complex trauma, which affects more than 70% of the population. Ali earned a bachelor's degree from Elon University and a master's degree from Loyola University in New Orleans. She's also a graduate of Leadership NRV, a prestigious leadership program facilitated in Southwest Virginia. Proceeds from her book support cancer, domestic abuse, hurricane relief, and human trafficking recovery charities. Allie is a fierce tiger lady. This brand is characterized by positivity, vulnerability, and embracing the art of reinvention. She's a proud wife and mother of 7 children and lives in Sunset Beach, North Carolina. You can learn more at fiercetigerlady.com and follow her on Facebook. All of this is in the show notes. Welcome, Allie.
Thank you so much, Maria. It's such a pleasure to be here.
Thanks. So, how did you become the fierce tiger lady?
Yeah, so that's kind of a long story. Before I begin, I just kind of wanted to thank you for creating space to talk about midlife through a lens of curiosity. So many people think of it like a crisis or, an end to something. And I really think our stories align beautifully, and it's a great opportunity to kind of talk about forward motion. So the tiger it is a metaphor. So the title of the book, Chasing Tigers in the Dark, I definitely thought that was the bravest image I could imagine. My upbringing kind of came from a silent generation mandate, not really a spoken expectation, but behavior of you push the hard stuff under the rug. You don't really talk about it publicly. Maybe you talk about it in church to God, but you kind of keep it to yourself. So I had an experience with a baby tiger that was kind of transformational. I also went through a divorce, and that experience of the triple curveball phenomenon, which I think you know well. I know from your TED talk, you had talked about, your triple curveball of the divorce and then empty nesting and then tackling sobriety. And that is very much the experience of my story as well. Just that reoccurrence of the triple curveball that, didn't really feel like an accident. So, the tiger kept kind of coming up as, a spirit animal, but also just a great image for perseverance and courage. So,
Mhm. Wow, that's beautiful. So let's go back to where it started, which was a river cult community, where there was mysterious death of your mother, murder, and your father was abusive, and you leapt aboard a train. How old were you, and what kind of train?
well, you're actually talking about the fiction project that I have coming up
Oh,
in the fall. So
gotcha.
yeah, that's kind of what I'm working on right now, and that's purely fiction. It is
Okay.
kind of around my where I grew up, but yeah, the nonfiction, the memoir project. My story started when I was 19 years old. Actually, it was a few weeks before my 19th birthday. I was 18. And the first triple curveball moment was, I was a sophomore in college, and I got this call, and this man that I thought I was going to marry was killed by a drunk driver.
Oh,
And then several months later, I was diagnosed with a very aggressive cancer that was charting a course from my neck to my brain. And then I was told I would never have children. So, as women, I think we're always making plans. We set our lives up with these big plans. And then, basically every big plan that I had for myself, who I was going to marry, how many children I was going to have, and then becoming an opera singer, it's kind of hard to be an opera singer when you have cancer in your neck. So all of these things were kind of just snatched away. And I kind of had to reinvent myself in that moment. I had to focus on obviously fighting cancer and battling and getting through it, but just emotionally it felt like everything had shifted, you know?
yeah. Wow, that's a lot. So, did you have a career as an opera singer at one time?
Yeah, so it was interesting. My treatment, I didn't end up having to have radiation, but the chemotherapy took its toll on the body. But I was able to be a professional singer for several years. Chronic illness found me again, and my thyroid had to be halfway removed, and that brought, more trauma to the voice. And so my singing voice didn't really rebound. So I decided to use my voice in a different way and speak and write. And, just like your beautiful story, I feel like sometimes, the obstacles that threaten to break us are the things that spark the catalyst for our happily ever after. And I'm not just talking about our love life, I'm talking about the happily ever after in every category of our life, right?
Yeah.
So, how we show up as parents, during a divorce, because, I had two kids during my divorce. And, sometimes when everything else seems wrong, you can focus on one thing at a time and make strides, where you can. So just trying to see the opportunities and the obstacles, like the gift of perspective can be the greatest thing that we provide to another human. And so that's what I've tried to focus on a lot in my life, just like you have. So
Thank you.
yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So, tell us more about the encounter with the tiger. What happened?
So um it was interesting. I was told I would never have children, right? And then miracle of miracles, I had two children, a boy and a girl, when everyone said it was impossible. And so they were my miracles. And sadly, their father, he struggled with his own uh, childhood trauma. He had had major loss in his history, and I think because he was raised a lot of the same way that I was, with that silent generation mandate, he was very Catholic, they didn't believe in therapy. And I just feel like his unmanaged trauma began to show up as anger. And so it was not a marriage that was going to last. And I won't get into the details of what happened because it's not just about me. It was a very tragic time for the three of us and for my ex-husband. And when the marriage ended, there was this period. Oh gosh, I guess it was several weeks before I made the ultimate decision. And we had gone to this, I guess it was kind of like a zoo, but it was more like of a grassroots kind of situation. This is a man that provided like big cats for movies and stuff, and then he would take the cats and other animals and created this sanctuary for them. And so it was kind of close to our home. It was maybe an hour away. And so we decided we were going to take the kids there that day. And so my husband had the children, and my parents were there, and I decided I was going to go in bed and bathroom. So I go into this big, I guess it was a barn, but there was plumbing, I went in there. I was trying to find the bathroom. And alone in the barn in this kind of makeshift pen. So it was like, I mean, I guess, well, it was bigger than a dog pen, but basically it was open on the top and there was a baby tiger in there. And I don't know what possessed me to do this, but I climbed in and sat down, and the tiger crawled into my lap.
Oh my gosh.
It was absolutely insane that I did that. I realize that now, but I don't know. There was just some kind of commonality that was going on that day where I felt like he was my, you know, brother from another mother, I guess. I don't know. It was just, it was the strangest thing. But I found this peaceful moment in that barn where I felt like anything was possible. I had been a professional singer part time because I was taking, like you, I was taking care of my children, and I was a music teacher. And I realized in that moment that I could do it. If I could sit there and hold a baby tiger, which is an absolutely impossible encounter, I knew that I could leave my marriage with two preschoolers in tow.
Wow.
And you're going to love this part because you're an attorney. So I moved to a rural town. This was like 3 hours away from where we had been living. And there were no opportunities for opera singers or for music teachers. So I had to cast a wide net. And I was hired to be the client services director for an intellectual property law firm.
Mm.
And girl, it
Whoa.
was absurd. I mean, it was the most absurd job offer I had ever been given. But you know what? It turned out to be the greatest opportunity for me at that time. Like, I was able to pursue this passion of helping other people in a way that I had never had before, just being able to hear people's stories and to be able to assist them with a lifeline, whether they were developing some characteristic of their business, or whether we did have a little bit of a criminal side hustle. So we did a little bit of criminal law. And so helping them through, their own tragedies, helping them to have hope. It was such an amazing time. And honestly, I found myself in that moment. I had just been, a wife and a mother up until that point, and a little bit of a singer, but mostly a wife and a mother. And working for the law firm and, just growing as a human, as a woman, was instrumental in that next season of my life. Like being able, like knowing that I could do something that I had no experience with, that I could build that skill set in the job was pretty empowering. So,
Yes,
yeah,
absolutely. Courage isn't the absence of fear, but feeling the fear and doing it anyway.
yes, absolutely.
So you wrote this incredible book called Chasing Tigers in the Dark: Life Lessons of a Fierce Survivor. What do you hope readers take away from that book?
I guess I would say so. This is the second edition, and
Okay.
the what makes this book different is the final chapter. Um, I really felt like the first edition was very unfinished. I was going through, at the end of the book, the first book, I was going through a very difficult loss. And the second book, I went through an almost identical loss in the final chapter, but I was able to tie it all together with my TIGER acronym, which is basically 5 steps for healing during traumatic seasons. So,
And what, do you mind telling us what the steps are that fit
no,
the
I would love
acronym?
to. I would love to. Yeah. So TIGER is the acronym. So the T stands for trust your intuition. So this can be as it pertains to safety and decision making, but for me, it was more about like trusting your intuition about what you're passionate about in life, because that was the through line for me. No matter what I was going through with regard to hardship, if I could connect with passion, that allowed me to keep moving during an uncertain time. I stands for invest in yourself. And honestly, that is pertaining to like some kind of therapeutic practice. So, it could be traditional therapy. For me, EMDR was very helpful, but even a meditation practice is has been very useful. G stands for growing your character, because I think you'll agree that when we're going through hardship, if we can kind of lean into being kind to others, like we all appreciate the golden rule, I think it just makes us feel better. And I adopted a kindness initiative called the Triple Filter. Have you heard of that one?
No, what is it?
Okay, so this is something that a friend of a friend had told us about, and it was something that was, I think it was introduced to her through a church, but it's basically an anti-gossiping campaign. So all of us are exposed to gossip probably every day. And basically, if someone came up to you and said an unkind remark about someone else, you would pause and you would say, is it true? Is it kind? Is it necessary? And if you couldn't say yes to all three questions, you would walk away, change the subject, or maybe even call the person out. So it's just kind of, I think you were talking about like practicing the pause in
Yeah.
your TED talk. And I think that like practicing the pause is so important in a lot of different ways, especially where, gossip is concerned. So that's G. E is exercise self care. So on my website, I provide a list of 6 self-care categories with basically examples under each heading on how to connect with that. And what's been especially helpful for me is an intentional morning routine. So really connecting to spirituality, to maybe creative writing, to intellectual interests. Like, I don't know if you're into crossword puzzles, but just kind of setting a morning prelude that really like gets you excited about the day. And then finally, reinvent yourself often. So my big thing is I know that if I am absent of joy, so not happiness, joy is rooted in purpose, meaning, and connection. If I am absent of those things that come with joy, then I know that it's time for a reinvention. And, that could be a small thing, that could be like, okay, I need to look at my social circle. I need to, you talk so beautifully about the 50 things that you did when you turned 50. And, that's huge. A reinvention could be doing something like that, or it could be a total overhaul, like leaving your marriage. So that's the tiger. Those are the 5 steps.
Beautiful. I love that. Wow. Who
Thank
knew that
you.
tigers would play such a huge role in your life?
Well, I know it was a very serendipitous thing, but yeah, it's definitely my spirit animal, and it's carried on through even to the fiction project. So I'm pretty rooted with the tiger.
Yeah, I find fiction much harder to write than nonfiction. Are you finding that?
Yes, I definitely know what you're saying. Like I was doing kind of a dual narrative at times, and it's yes, it is because when we're writing a memoir, or when we're writing nonfiction, we're telling our own story, or we're telling truth. We're telling something that we've seen or experienced, and fiction is more creative. It's fun, but it definitely it works, a different I don't know, a different creative process, I guess I'd say.
Yeah. On your website, you have this thing that says join the streak team. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so I just put together an art team for Chasing Tigers in the Dark. So I am so blessed to have, I guess, maybe 55 different women who have kind of joined the street team, if you will. And, they've read the book, they're reviewing the book, and they're recommending it to their friends. So, that's been really important to me is to kind of, spread as much joy, as much hope as I can through this project. I feel like I was really quiet for far too long, on some of the things that I went through. And now it's time, I turned 50 this year, and I also celebrate 30 years cancer free this year. And I think it's a great way to celebrate is to provide, a gift for other humans who are still navigating the storm.
Yes, definitely. I love your guide to self-care on your website. You've got some really nice ideas for lots of different types of self-care, social, practical, spiritual. That's really a nice offering that you have.
Oh, thank you so much. Appreciate
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, and you provide resources too for people if they need to find a psychologist or therapist for personal development, for yoga and meditation. I can see that you're
Yes.
really trying to put good things into the world.
Oh, thank you. Well, you are too. That was why I was just so connected to what you were putting out there. I really feel like we have a lot in common.
Yes, yes. So do you share some of what you've written in your book with your children?
So my children, that was a big part of this. So the stories came together during the pandemic. And honestly, the quietness at times was like a mirror. So I couldn't really escape some of the stories that were popping up in the silence. And, honestly, I think it was because, I have six girls and those girls were getting older. And, my two oldest girls, I'm their bonus mom, but they are, at that time, they were very close to the age of when I went through sexual assault. And honestly, they were the drivers in all of this.
Mm,
I wanted to be able to provide information of how to assimilate the behavior of a predator before becoming a victim.
yeah.
So, that's kind of where the impetus for this began. I just wanted to really be able to share it all with my daughters and my son. I wanted to protect them from some of the things that I encountered if that was possible.
Yes. Wow. Wow. Well, what a bonus mom you have become.
Oh, you're sweet. Thank
Are
you.
you still in touch with your ex-husband?
Well, sadly, that's what chapter 12 is about. We lost him in
Oh,
2023. And so, the two children that we shared, this new edition is dedicated to them because they lost their dad and 6 weeks later I lost mine.
oh, wow.
So, yeah, we both lost, very important men in our lives at the exact same time. And they were 17 and 18 at the time. And it basically, gosh, Maria, it broke my heart because the thing we want for our children is to protect them. We
Hmm.
don't want them to go through some of the things that we went through. I thought immediately back to, losing that man at that age, at 18. And I thought, gosh, how is it that my children are going through this monumental loss of losing a parent at this age?
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's why I really wanted to put together, this intentional tiger protocol, the acronym that,
Yeah.
they can hit the ground running
Yeah.
and really connect with some of these resources before, they get triggered the way I did so many times, to
Yeah.
start it from the very beginning with that intentional routine of taking care of themselves, mind, body, and spirit.
Wow, what a gift. What a
Wow.
gift. That's really amazing. And um Why, last question before I get to the ultimate question. Why did you sell your incredibly successful franchise?
Oh, I don't know. It's Maria, you wear so many hats in your life and it's so inspiring. But I think that, for my husband and I, we've been together for 15 years. We've been married for 13. And I think because we met later in life, so I met him, ironically, like four months after my divorce, and he was going through divorce. And I think we just really wanted to have our time.
Mm,
We wanted to be able to really invest in our relationship. Owning a franchise like that is wonderful in so many ways, but it's also, it takes a lot of time and energy out of, your family, your marriage. And so it was just time. It was
yeah.
time. And we had a wonderful friend who was a younger franchisee who really just wanted the opportunity. So, and he's 50 plus stores now. So it's exciting to see him shine. And my husband has stayed on as a consultant. So it's pretty awesome.
Wow,
Yeah.
wonderful. So I ask all of my guests the following question. What do you do, Allie, to become your best version?
I live with the Tiger Protocol, my friend. What
Hmm.
I was telling you earlier, I try to be very intentional about healing, and that protocol kind of keeps me in line and moving forward in a positive manner.
Okay, one more
So
time. The T is for
trust your intuition, in,
I,
invest in yourself,
G,
grow your character,
E,
exercise self-care,
R.
reinvent yourself often.
Ah,
Yay!
it's easy to remember. I love acronyms because they help so much with in the recovery community, we use this acronym HALT. Don't allow yourself to get hungry, angry, lonely, or tired. So when you feel any
Oh,
of those things coming up, you take steps to alleviate them because any one of those four things can trigger a weakness that might lead you down the addiction path once again. So,
absolutely.
yeah, I'm a big fan of acronyms. So I would encourage all of you to go to fiercetigerlady.com. And she's also on TikTok, Facebook, Instagram. She's got it all going on and has two fiction books coming out that sound riveting. I thought it was your real story when I was looking over um, your your website. I was like, wow, oh my gosh, she did that too.
Oh, you're so kind. Well, I guess I'm just drawn to the drama. It's kind of fun to write about.
Well, you've lived it, so you can
Well,
write something believable because you've actually lived it.
oh,
So
thank
thank you
you.
so much, Allie, for being on the show.
Oh, thank you, Maria. I appreciate all that you're doing, and it's just inspiring to see your work and to be a small part of it today. So thank you.
Right back at ya.